Hey guys, what is going on? Shut up, Nexus back here with another video, and we gotta talk about these PC gamers saying that 8 gigabytes of VRAM is not enough for gaming. First of all, this is a very misleading statement for people trying to get into PC gaming. A lot of these people who buy pre-builds usually don't have Intel GPU there, which do have the 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which I mean is awesome. But the thing is that people that buy pre-builds usually buy those with the NVIDIA GPUs, with the 4060, maybe sometimes with the AMD GPUs like the 7600 or something like that. So yeah guys, when it comes to 8 gigabytes of VRAM not being enough, I think this is an absolute joke. And I think a lot of people have actually overestimated the amount of VRAM that you need. Now look, is it true that in some games you can use more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM even at 1080p? It is true. However, many budget gamers are not going to be using more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM with the games that they play. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because AMD announced the 9060 XT, $300 for 8 gigabytes of VRAM. A lot of people got really mad at this here, but honestly, for me, it's not that bad because, you know, I understand the used market here, and a lot of people that are still paying $250 to $300 for 8 gigabytes of VRAM GPUs, they're still doing it. So why would AMD not do it? And to this backlash here, Frank Azar responded that the majority of gamers are still playing at 1080p and have no more use than 8 gigabytes of memory. Most games played worldwide are esports games. We wouldn't build it if there's no market for it. If 8 gigabytes isn't right enough for you, then there's 16 gigabyte. Same GPU, no compromise, just memory options. So yeah, a lot of people went absolutely ballistic here, and they have no idea how the used market is. If you want to buy a GPU for around $300, you're looking at around maybe, like, let's say an RTX 3060 that would have 12 gigabytes, but most of them are going to have around 8 gigabytes of memory. You're going to be pretty hard pressed to find something. Like, if you get very lucky, you can maybe get like a 6700 XT or a 6700, which has the 6700 has 12 gigabytes of VRAM, and then the 6700 non-XT, right? That one has 10 gigabytes of VRAM. But yeah, I mean, honestly guys, this is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, if you guys can see the most played games here, most of them don't even use that much VRAM. Like $300 for an 8 gigabyte GPU is not bad, okay? And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh hey, Intel offers you the Arc B580 for only $250 and has 12 gigabytes of VRAM. Yeah, okay, they can do that because the thing is that Intel's a newcomer to the market, okay? Intel has little to no influence on the market whatsoever when they don't sell as much. Okay, yeah, sure, you see scalpers buying up the B580s, and not only that is that their graphics cards have more bugs and glitches and stuff like that, like the CPU overhead issue. And a lot of these big YouTubers that are pushing this thing here saying, oh, 8 gigabytes of VRAM is not enough for gaming, they're not your average consumers. They don't keep the graphics cards, they just go ahead and they test them, okay? Now, I'm not saying all of them are like, you know, super rich and they have like a decked out RTX 5090, 9950 X3D. This is far from the truth, okay? There are a lot of bigger YouTubers that do have very reasonable rigs that do use these kind of cards. But the thing is that, look, these other big YouTubers, they are not the market here, okay? Like, they want to get the top of the line stuff, and they don't really care about the budget gamer, okay? If you care about the budget gamer, okay, you would be supporting Intel, okay? You'd be supporting Intel. The thing is that a lot of people don't want to go with Intel because of this CPU overhead issue, okay, on the Arc B580, and apparently it's also, to some extent, it's on the B570 as well, but not quite as much. There's still some issues here and there with drivers. So we can see, guys, that Intel at this point is not viable for the casual gamer. If you know about PCs and stuff like that, yeah, sure, you can go ahead and you can go with Intel and you can go ahead and deal with the issues and stuff like that. But the thing is that when we are talking about the budget gamer, 8 gigabytes is plenty, guys. I bought an RX 60 or I mean, I'm sorry, a 5700 XT, 8 gigabytes of VRAM for 65 bucks, and guess what? I can go ahead and I can play virtually any game out there. All the games that I tested out, okay, I'm not gonna say like it works with every single game in the world and you'll never run out of VRAM or anything like that, but as a casual, okay, you will never run out of VRAM, even at 4K, okay, because the thing is that I tested out a lot of different games at 4K with a 5700 XT, and guess what? It played the games perfectly fine. So to say as a blanket statement that 8 gigabytes of VRAM is not enough for gaming is honestly laughable. And not only that, I mean, you have everything on the used market up until maybe around $400 USD, maybe 350 if you get lucky. You can get the 6700 XT like I said, but most of those cards are still 8 gigabytes of VRAM. I mean, even when it comes to, like, let's say the 2080, okay, the 2080, the 1080, the 1070, the RX 480, all these cards are virtually going to give you 8 gigabytes of VRAM. And the thing is that, look, if you want to play games at the max settings, I don't even think 12 gigabytes of VRAM is enough for you. If you're playing at 1440p at least, I would recommend at least 16. But the thing is that this is the type of games that people play, okay? If you play the games that are going to go ahead and, you know, you're going to have to use a lot of VRAM here and there, then yeah, you are going to want to have the most VRAM that you can get. But the thing is that, look, these budget cards here are for people that are playing, you know, esports every now and then, maybe playing some older games here and there. The whole VRAM usage craze, I think, really blew up when Shadow of Mordor in 2014 said that you needed 6 gigabytes of VRAM to play at the max settings, which is kind of insane because at that time, 6 gigabytes of VRAM would have been the $1,000 RTX, or sorry, the GTX Titan. So look, it's never really been that you could play your games at the max settings. If you go ahead and you stick to medium settings, to low settings, to high settings at 1080p, you should be fine. If you have a mix of the settings, basically, you should be fine. But a lot of these so-called, you know, PC gaming professionals completely miss that a lot of people are not going to be playing these games like Doom: The Dark Ages, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle using ray tracing, all this stuff here and there. Yeah, if you're using ray tracing, you want to have as much VRAM as possible. But this is what these PC gaming channels, these bigger PC gaming channels, are completely missing. That we are, like, as budget gamers, okay, like if I wanted to buy a budget GPU, like let's say I am in the market for buying a budget GPU, I'll be completely fine with a 5700 XT. And not only that, on Linux, you can go ahead, I showed this in my last video as well, you can go ahead and you can play these games on a 5700 XT. Doom: The Dark Ages, ray tracing only game, and you can go ahead and you can play Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, ray tracing only game, on a 5700 XT. So if I can go ahead and I can play these games, albeit at, you know, lower settings, but I can still play the games, why would I really care to go ahead and upgrade to the latest GPU for $65? I mean, here's the thing, $65 is a really, really good deal for that GPU. I got a really good deal on it, but if you even spend, like, let's say around $120, $140 on a 5700 XT, you can still play most games 1080p. It will play them no problem. So I'm not really understanding this, guys. I mean, look, if you're playing, like, you know, the latest games, yeah, you want to have the most VRAM ever, but to say is a blanket statement, okay, to say as a blanket statement that 8 gigabytes of VRAM is not enough for gaming is just absolutely ridiculous. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this video just because, you know, these bigger channels have always been pushing this narrative that 8 gigabytes of VRAM is not enough for gaming. And they're going to be blindly following these people here and tell me that I am wrong without looking at the data. Well, the data says otherwise, so they are wrong. 8 gigabytes of VRAM is perfectly fine for a lot of games. So, alright guys, that's going to be it for me for now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, have a good one. Peace.